Some of you may be wondering why we study medieval history. Well, there are a number of reasons why medieval history is included in the Australian curriculum, and I promise you, none of the reasons is because history is designed to put students to sleep. Learning about history is a great way to better understand and appreciate the world around us. We look back to the medieval period in particular because a lot of the foundations of Western society stem from this time period. From our economic systems, our justice systems, and even our political systems, medieval history is a bunch of interesting stories that help us understand how many of these systems developed. Also, the medieval period is really interesting when you start looking at the stories of people who lived during those times, real people who really lived during those times. By studying history, you can appreciate all the weird and wacky things they did during those times. Hopefully this can help you understand why we do the weird and wacky things we still do today. Finally, history can be fun. Think about all the modern stories that are on TV and in movies today. Stories like Game of Thrones, Vikings, Lord of the Rings, and even the Marvel superheroes such as Thor and Loki. All of these can be traced back to real stories from the past, whether those stories were written as fiction during the past, or even sometimes the stories are of real people who really lived in the past. Game of Thrones, a lot of the stories can be traced back to the War of the Roses in the 15th century. The TV series Vikings, a lot of the things that they discuss and they display in their TV show actually were done by real Vikings who lived in the past. These real stories are actually sometimes more interesting than the fiction that we've created. If we look back and we look at those people that were real people just like you and me, they really lived these lives and they really did these crazy things in order to perpetuate their own society, or even because they had weird understandings of how the world worked. That is why we study history, it's why I study history, and it's what I love about history, to look back at the things that people did in the past, to really understand why I think the way I do, why the people around me act the way they do. Why do we live in a system that has been created from a lot of these foundation documents that were formed in the 11th and 12th century? Plus, you need to admit it, swords are cool. Who doesn't want to swing a sword around and hit each other with them?